Welcome to episode number 98. 98 of the Eavesdrop podcast. We have a duo in front of us today. My man Tobias Sherman, he and I go way the fuck back. And I just got the pleasure to meet Mr. Chris Nunez, legendary tattoo artist, graffiti artist.
Yeah, thank you.
More human
Right.
human than human.
My man, brother from another.
All right, so I don't even know where to start. So I guess we'll start by letting everybody know that this podcast is brought to you by Credit Karma and Wealthfront, and I'll tell you a little bit more about them later on in the podcast. But you guys are here filming your own show. You guys want to give us a tour mentally of what it is? Who wants to go?
I mean, I was chilling at home. Not much changed for me during the pandemic because I'm like inside. Right?
You know what? I'm going to cut you off right there. I got to do some introductions here. We can't just jump right into it like that. So let's start where you and I met. So I'm gonna set it up for you. Okay. So
all right. Yeah.
You guys all know E-League, right? We won season 2 of the Counter-Strike E-League competition by Turner. This is the man that put that together, right? So you've been in gaming for a long time.
Yeah. Well, before we sold to William Morris and the Aqua hired us, like we were in like 2008 trying to convince brands like this is the spot to be, and they would just remember and be like, who is that crazy guy talking about watching video games for fun? Like, let's call that guy.
Yeah.
Obviously, and then that got this, sell to William Morris, get to William Morris. What do you want to do? Let's create a TV show, like off rip. And I think it's like 8 months later, we're at CES with you, where you're qualifying through season 1. So
yeah,
which was great. And actually, so we had met. Chris and I had met. I was a fan of Ink Master, and my wife was like, "Hey, you should probably meet Chris. You guys would probably be really good friends." And I'm like, "Sure, well, I'll go get a tattoo by him." And then we
just like that. You're like, "Yeah, just let me go." No, wait, I got to get on the list, right?
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Like I was gonna make it happen. You know me. I was we'll find a way, right?
Uh-huh.
And although it was work, like his, it was like he has a shooting schedule and everything else. But he eventually got me in, and I guess we became friends.
Yeah, you were the guy. You also put the first phase partnership with WME IMG, right? You made that happen.
Yeah, and I hooked them up with their manager as well, who's actually also Kid Rock's manager. At the time,
Lee Trink,
yeah. So Lee was repping some other people,
yeah. And so you put the Lee Trink thing together,
yeah. So the head of music for WME, had known Lee and is like, can you do anything for Lee? He really wants to get into esports. I go, well, yeah, I'll deliver him the number one, next to Optic, of course.
Yeah, my man, thank you for saying that. Just cleared it up.
Yeah. I saved myself there. I will give you the number one brand. Well, we never had to rep you because you're so good with brands yourself, and so you didn't need us.
No, I did. You should have asked. I would have been like, yeah,
if you say so. But I said, well, how can you do it better than the best? I don't know. But yeah, so then I said, all right, well, I introduced Lee, and I just told them, this is your guy. Like, you need to hire this guy.
Yeah.
And it was like literally in 5 minutes, he was hired.
I just interviewed Lee Trink for a different show that I'm doing, and what an impressive dude. An impressive dude. And the way that he's been moving in this space too is like commendable. The dude just owns it.
He does.
Right? Yeah, he just owns it. He just knows his place and fucking owns it. And he's been delivering for FaZe like no one I've ever seen in the space, man.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Like you see a FaZe hoodie in Colombian rap artists. You know what I mean? You see a FaZe Clan on Sports Illustrated. Like, this dude's making the moves that needed to be made. And look, somebody had to clutch up. Right. Like, no one was clutching up until he came along and did something like that. So please continue.
Yeah. So, okay. So you know what? Since you introed me, then I'll tell you how we met. So we go down. He does this whole tattoo. He says, what do you want? I want like a tiger tattoo. So I have this tiger tattoo on my arm. He goes, well, I also...
So introduce him. Him.
It's, of course, Chris Nunez. Like, I mean, he needs the man that needs no introduction.
No introduction. Right.
So as he's tattooing me, I'm telling him what I do, what I'm about to break with E-League. Like, it's about to come out. And I see him he's real inquisitive about gaming at this point. And, as he's tattooing, I'm putting him on to different ways to distribute content and all these other things and art and sort of how we saw video gaming. And before I knew it, at the end of the tattoo, it's an expensive tattoo. Obviously, anybody that knows tattooing this is a big piece, right? So He's like, yeah, no charge. One day you and I are going to make a lot of money together.
Mm-hmm.
And my joke is that you should have charged me. Like,
You ain't shitting.
Right,
You
probably
ain't
should, because he didn't know the emotional roller coaster he was about to go on,
Yeah.
becoming my friend.
Yeah.
So-
Look, goosebumps.
yeah, I got goosebumps again.
Yeah.
I mean,
You're a
so
goosebump kind of guy.
I am, only in special moments. But Lily was right. We became
Lily.
my wife,
Okay.
of course. Yeah, so my wife Lily, sorry audience, was correct. We did become really good friends, probably closer than Chris would have liked, which sort of led us to where we are today. And we did.
Yeah.
But he was also part of E-League Season 1. He just couldn't make it. But Chris Garver made it and did the tattoo from... It's the sniper rifle that is on... I can't think of the map in
CSGO?
in CS:GO. It's
One
got
of the
the
ops,
wings.
the dragon- the dragon-
It's got it's got the. It's on the map. It's from where they pulled off the 4 snipes.
Oh, yeah. It's Zera. Cold Zera.
Cold Zero.
Cold Zero sniper.
So he
play.
tattooed.
Yeah.
So Garver ends up tattooing the Cold Zero on Cold Zero.
Oh.
Right. But Chris, why don't you tell us why couldn't you make it to E-League Season 1?
Because I am the proud father of a beautiful daughter and a beautiful son. But my daughter at the time was, how many years ago was this?
Oh, this is what, 4 or
4 or
5?
5 years ago.
Yeah.
So we're talking 2.5 or 3.
Yeah.
She was in my arms and she was sick and she had what the doctors called hand, mouth, and foot. So kids get it. It's not an adult thing. But my daughter was sick, burning with fever. I hold her in my arms and she sneezes into my face. Like, it was a perfect storm. She sneezed this way as I was answering somebody's question this way. So my mouth was open, my eyes were open, and her entire sickness, that is only a childhood sickness, went into me. Long story short, this was my entrance to gaming, right? I was
You
super
mutated.
jazzed. I gave this fucking guy a free tattoo to get there. And so this thing, I got it. So my hands and my feet all turned bright red and started peeling. So now I'm laying in the bed with my daughter that's going through the same thing. And when I tell you it's one of the most painful things I've ever felt, it's like walking on shards of glass because you have to get to the bathroom. It got to the point one day where I crawled. But your hands feel the same, and all of your skin comes off to like the very last layer.
The nerves.
To the very last bit. You're just pink meat.
Yeah.
So Tob called me, and I was like, buddy, I don't think I got to pull out. I don't think I can do it. So he was like, well, what do you got? We were already committed. And I was like, well, let me get Garver. You know, Garver will do it for you, whatever. And they already, you know, like they had a relationship in a way.
First, I said, let me see your hands. And you sent me a picture. I was
I
like,
have
it
the
can't be that
picture.
bad. And I was like, Lord of mercy.
Lot of mercy.
My hands were just falling off. Now, interesting, you know, fan fact for people that were Ink Master viewers, I still had to do the finale.
No.
So I had to get on a plane looking like Michael Jackson, looking crazy with gloves
on, yeah.
right? I was told by the doctors I wasn't contagious anymore and I was just going to be in a lot of pain. And I went and I shot the finale with my hands on the table the whole time like this. When I lifted my hand up during a break to grab my water, to grab something,
Blood.
no, an entire piece of my skin was just like...
Lord.
Leprosy.
And Dave Navarro was sitting next to me. He's a germaphobe like crazy.
He's
And
like,
at one point, I got up to go do something. I was like, oh, and I put my hand on his shoulder, and this dude bugged out. Just bugged, what are you doing to me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was the funniest, like, out of love, but it was funny. But that was the kind of whole inspiration or catalyst, and that was the crazy part of the story.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about you. Like, what's your story? I mean, I know it. Obviously, a lot of people watching this know this, but just for those who don't, tell us.
I grew up in South Florida. I grew up right on County Line Road between Dade and Broward. And back at that time, there was a couple of kids that moved into my neighborhood. I was always the youngest kid. Everybody was 4 or 5 years older than me. And at that time, kids, we used to play in the streets because I'm an old man. So we get to be in the streets until the lights came on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was that time.
Let me explain that. At around 9 o'clock or when the sun goes down, the street lights go up, right? That means that it's dark. That means that you as a kid, the rule is that we don't have phones. We don't have watches. Like, kids need to be...
You
like,
report.
the lights go on, time to report to mom and dad.
Yep.
Otherwise, you get your ass beat. I think it's a cultural... I think it's just like a worldwide thing, right? Because I had that in Juarez, Mexico. I didn't abide by it, obviously, because I'm a rebel. Make more noise than heavy metal.
Look at you. Right through with the woo.
All right,
Always.
so please continue.
So I started noticing cardboard, right? And I started seeing cardboard bombed. We had a couple of kids from New York that moved down and they were doing
Cardboard
graffiti.
bombed?
Cardboard all tagged and
Okay.
painted with big throw-ups and all kinds
Graffiti.
of stuff from graffiti.
Yeah.
Back in those days, and kids spinning on their backs and doing all this breakdancing. And I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. So by the time I was like 8 or 9, I was already immersed in what was a New York City culture. And I started to learn about graffiti and Lees and all this old cultural stuff, wearing your silky with a tank top over the top and getting your breakdance crew with letters going downwards, down the side. My grandma was a seamstress, so she used to take my pants apart and put 2 different colorways together for our crew, fat shoelaces, all that. But it all came from kids that moved into my neighborhood from the city, from New York City. And we started learning that. So by 6th grade, I was full on painting.
Yeah.
You know, at 6th grade, I was doing everybody's folders in school. I was one of our crew that was doing girls' folders and selling folders to dudes and whatever, doing all the art. And we got to painting. And so that painting led me through high school. But in about 9th or 10th grade, I started noticing tattoo magazines. And in the neighborhood I grew up in, there was a biker house next door to me. And they were doing tattoos on the porch. And nobody would say shit in the neighborhood because they were that way. But we had bikers in one house. We had a Dominican family. We had a Puerto Rican family. Like, we were completely a melting pot in our neighborhood. So we got all flavors coming in. So I started taking tattoo imagery and I started putting it into my graffiti. And then I started relearning how to get away from drawing graffiti and start learning how to draw for tattooing, because graffiti, a lot of it, they're so tight, the little bits, the little 3Ds, the tight little sections, those don't last in skin. So now I'm like, okay, I want to learn to
Even
tattoo.
nowadays? Like,
nah, they'll still, you'll get, you know, if you put in a bold outline, it's going to run together. Over time, like, these were super thin lines when I started, and now
skin expands as you get fatter, skinnier.
Older.
Yeah.
So
Older.
I like older better than fatter.
Yeah.
Older, better.
Fatter for me, goddammit.
So all of that came into play, and I started really taking on to tattooing. So at 18, I graduated high school. I lost my father. I was supposed to go to college, and I said, fuck it, I'm going to go be a tattoo apprentice. And everyone was like, no, you're crazy. You're throwing your life away. You're going to be this. You're going to be that. Family's mad. Friends are, you know, whatever. I don't care. I'm going.
Yeah.
And today I'm sitting here on your podcast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like tattooing, and I traveled the world to learn. It took me 11 years. I lived out of a suitcase traveling to Europe, traveling to Brazil, fearless, no internet yet. You know what I mean? It was like, you want to learn, you go here, you go there. I worked at some of the best shops in Florida, traveled the country, and then traveled the world.
How does for those who are aspiring tattoo artists, because the thing about gaming that you need to understand is that gaming is the connector of many different cultural backgrounds and interests and all that, right? So as much as I'm a gamer, like, I relate with a lot of people through fishing. I relate with a lot of people with, you know what I'm saying, like that sort of thing. So for those who are watching, how does one become like this world renowned of a tattoo artist? Like, did you go in competitions, like submissions through magazines? Like, how did your journey start?
It's a very different world, but I would always say you need a passport, like, straight up, because the internet will take you anywhere from the comfort of your home. But for me, the idea of going to Europe and seeing Caravaggio paintings and seeing big, beautiful fountains and statues, that all influenced my work to a way that I can't get the same influence in a picture. Sure, it's beautiful in the picture, but when you could be there, and then you could go to the cafe and grab a drink or eat the food, and then you could meet somebody from the area that night and go out and then go tattoo those folks tomorrow, it puts soul into it. So you can always replicate something, but it's never going to sound solid. It's not going to be like this table of the wood. It's going to be hollow in the middle because you're just copying a picture. But when you can make that picture a part of your life, then it becomes solid, and that's your foundation for your art.
And then how do you become as popular as you did? I mean,
I got lucky. I mean, literally, like, you know, we were a group of guys. We had all started doing our apprenticeships on South Beach at Tattoos by Lou, and we were a crew that had Chris Garver, that had Ami, that had everything. It wasn't cast. Ami and I were always out at night. We were super nightlife guys. Ami was like a very nightlife guy because he would party organize, door, do all that shit. So he was really, and then I was his man, so I was at every night we were out. So a production company came, a guy came to Ami one day and was like, hey, I got this idea and I want to do it this way. And Ami said, well, I got the dudes. What's the deal? They hit it off after being in the nightlife and everything else. And then with a little bit of my street savvy, we organized Miami Ink. We were able to rent the spot that was an existing shop. We refaced it. And 3 days before we started shooting, we were in there busting our ass to turn it into our shop. because I was like, if we're gonna do this, let's at least own it,
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
instead of giving it all away.
Yeah.
And so we had that portion of it, and that began the whirlwind of what tattoo television turned into.
Yeah. That's crazy. I do remember watching Miami Ink. And then what was it, Ink Masters after? I think I stopped after Miami Ink. Just life got in the way and whatever. But at some point in my life, I'm like, maybe I would like to be a tattoo artist. But I'm like, man, I'm not that good actually. So I better not. Look, one thing, flat surface, not moving, not a living, breathing thing, always moving, like sneezes, like obviously
exactly.
That's what made me like afraid to explore that. So I was obviously watching. So I've known about you for like as long as I can remember. To give you an example, Mario, who works here at the HECZ quarters, who's the godfather of Olivia, and I'm godfather to his son. He moved here when I moved here. Well, a year after I moved to Texas, he moved down here from Illinois as well. And earlier today, we were waiting in the lot in this little area where I have the pictures, and we're talking. And my dude walks in, and he's like, oh, because he saw cameras and all that. And he's like, oh shit, right? And he's like, hey, and he was just gonna walk in, mind his own business, right? Because we're always recording, and he just does his own thing. And I'm like, wait, this is Toby Sherman, that's my boy. And before I even got a chance to look at this, dude looks up, and he's like, what the fuck? He's like, dude, but I was like, I watch you.
Can I shake your hand again?
Turns red. Has like this 10-minute conversation with Chris, and then he's like, dude, let me shake your hand again, man, and then fucking takes off, right? But again, like your name, your art, like all that has always been, I think, a part of like our sort of culture. Like it's like, how do I say it? I always say, like, I didn't grow up having superheroes, right? Aside from Thundercats and Masters of the Universe.
Who was your favorite Thundercat, real quick?
Lionel.
Yeah.
I
mean, Panthro had the nunchucks, though.
Yeah,
and they were dope. But
Panthro was cool.
You couldn't find Panthro in the store.
No, Panthro's cool, but I'm a leader, dude. You know, I
had Lionel, too.
You know what I mean? But I grew up having, my superheroes were Wu-Tang, right? My superheroes were, like, the graffiti writers that I looked up to, right? So, like, I think I've always known about you, and then when this guy... this guy's connected in more ways than one. So like any single time that he's like, I know this person, like I'm not surprised anymore. I was like, one day he's like, hey, literally, did I call you or did you call me?
Which time?
This last time to do the show.
I called you.
Okay. He calls me. I obviously pick up because I always pick up when it's Toby. And immediately he's like, hey, we're doing a show. We want to interview you. It's called Tastemakers. We're going to be there 2 weeks from now. I'm like, oh, fucking let me look at my schedule. I'm like, done. And here you are, literally 2 weeks ago.
I know. Well, so this fool goes ahead, and now he starts executive producing.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got a show coming out on Netflix that he executive produced. So he's coming from in front of the camera to behind the camera, a spot I've always enjoyed thoroughly.
Yeah.
And he's like, come on, we're going to do the show together. And I'm like, I was saying to you earlier, I was like, nothing really changed for me during COVID. I Amazon everything in. I'm like in my compound. I got my games, my son, whatever. We go out. Vegas can be a tough town. If you
shout out to Ace, by the way.
Yeah, shouts out to my son Ace. He's gonna go nuts that you did that. But I try to stay in and just live a normal suburban life in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Some golf here and there. But he's like, let's get out of the house. I want to go do this show, and I want to really feature, artists and tastemakers, and I want to do it in gaming also.
Okay.
And so he actually pitched me the gaming side of it, and I was like super reluctant. At first, because I knew that that's a big commitment, and this side of the camera is in a lot of ways way more difficult than when you have the safety of an office and a board meeting and direction and all this stuff as an executive producer. So, but it was like the best experience ever. So the first person, you were the top of my mind. I was like, okay, we have to get Hector. If we get Hector, we can do the show, right? And then another cast of great characters had fallen in.
Can you talk about them?
Yeah, I'm not sure at what point we're going to air the episodes. So but you're the first esports one anyway, or maybe not, depending on how this one comes out. But so we have obviously Fwiz from YouTube Gaming, right? And there's the great thing about Fwiz, about Ryan is, as you know, more than anybody, he came from the space. It wasn't some executive that pretended to know it or. Had to learn it. They actually coming from there. And Machinima days, I love the stuff he was doing at Machinima, and watched his career grow and grow and grow. And then also Rishi, so from
brother.
Twitter, he's great. then on the art side, I mean, just an amazing, everyone from Hal Nazem, Tats Crew, Ron English. There's so many just to name because he's got just this wonderful roster of artists as well. So I think we picked, like season 1 has an amazing just group of people that are true tastemakers.
Yeah, you and explain that, the Tastemakers, what is that about?
So Tastemakers was really looking to prolific people in their field, right? And people that for me, people that I grew up looking at that I've always admired and heroes. And luckily I got to meet a lot of the ones that we see this season in the past, right? Throughout the time of crossing, having different shows, different things, different events, different activities in life. These are all friends, So the one person that I didn't know that was overwhelming to me and a huge hero was Alex Gray.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, based on spiritual stuff that I do, spiritual work and, different things that I've done in my life, getting to see this guy's paintings and seeing him and his wife Allison's body of work was mind-blowing to me. And to everybody, our whole crew, everybody stood in front of these paintings like it was a revelation.
Yeah.
So to see that, to see work from Hal and Nazem, to see work from Tats Crew, to have shot Tats Crew with Hal and Nazem together 12 years ago at the pun murals that they did and at the Graffiti Hall of Fame, that for us to be here now and see them together but split fine art careers, like all these different things that have happened in their life, children, like so many things have happened for everybody. It's beautiful, but Tastemakers is literally, it's that thing. And for me, the idea of gamers, right? And the idea of the art that goes into gaming and the idea of somebody having that idea, right, is art. So I look at everything in life as art.
Same.
And I think it's so important that we celebrate those things. And there was nobody better in the world that could take me on that journey than Toby.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, Toby, listen, let's do this. You know what I mean? You show me your world, I'll show you mine. So I've gotten to show him into what I've been in love with my whole life. And just within this 10-day span, 12-day span that we've been shooting, he's a complete art aficionado. He's been with the best. He's learned. He's seen it all upside down. He's got a million ideas. It's blown his mind. And that's what I want out of gaming for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Now it's like, okay, blow my mind.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Because I think the worlds, the environments, the competition, the lifestyle, the pro of it, you know what I mean? The casual user and the engagement, because I watch my kids do it. Like I want to know. I don't want to be that lost old man in the corner like, what?
Yeah,
So for me, it's fascinating. It's fascinating to see you have a compound like this, all based on a passion.
Yeah. Yeah, I've gotten super lucky as well, right? Like a lot of people don't like to give luck credit because they feel like it diminishes their own hard work. But, like think about the amount of people that work their asses off and don't get lucky and don't get that lucky break. Like it is 100%. Look, putting yourself in a position to be a first mover is one thing. But having the luck to be able to be at the right place at the right time is like
it's there.
It's the craziest. And look, it's as much taking advantage of an opportunity as it is making your own luck, right? Like luck is a thing, but at the end of the day, it's like you have to be able to recognize the opportunity and get lucky in the execution of that idea. So far, Ron English. Which one's been your favorite so far? I mean, besides me, which one's been your favorite? And you guys can have.
Look, I like them for different reasons.
Yeah.
So I could and it's been just crazy. I don't want to spoiler alert the show or anything, but there's been other guests that have popped up that we didn't know were going to show that I knew from the music industry years back, and I've been telling him about because of their unique tattoos.
Yeah.
And I just want to tell the story. So
no, don't.
but
Save it.
Yeah, but he ends up meeting him finally, and I said, "Look, these are the tattoos I've been telling you about." But anyway, so I think favorite. I was first introduced to this art world from Chris going actually out on the streets in Miami and him showing me murals, and then that led to so Hal Nazem was my first sort of like, here, look, and I learned from them like to have a dialogue with the work. So Chris has a piece in his house where every time I walk past it, I see something new, right? And if anybody that's familiar with their work can like sort of identify with that, right? They know what I'm talking about because it is so unique and there's so much in there to see that you can see it as a whole, but when you start to get really into it, you can say, oh, wow, I didn't notice this little detail or that little detail. And so, that's why I was even, trying to get you to come out for a lot of this as well, because I know you're the perfect sort of conduit between gaming and everything we're doing with the show on the other side, whether it's the street art or, apparel, whatever it is, you've really taken your passions and made those shine. And so, what I can tell you though is at some point we can definitely get you out with these guys because I know what a fan you are. But,
yeah.
You're a tastemaker yourself, and the only thing I like about really the show is it's not about us. We're not the tastemakers. We get to interview the tastemakers, and I think that's amazing because I get to learn, he gets to learn.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I do, right? Like I curate people for my audience that I think that would be interested or interesting for them to take a look at. So when you guys came, I'm like, wait, time out. I'm like, I don't want to sort of hijack the day, but I'm like, I'm going to be pissed off later on if I don't ask you guys to do a podcast, right? So I was like, yo, you guys want to do a podcast? Because awesome. We can do an hour, knock it out, and then go hang out. So I'm actually glad that I did. Because look, as much as I like interviewing, and as much as they like to watch people from the industry that they are fans of or whatever, like I do like to curate people that are also on the business side, on the art side, like on sports. I've interviewed a bunch of professional athletes, and those obviously are the ones that you get more interest in, right? Because it's such a different world that you come from, right? Like the business, the art world. To me, these are the type of podcasts that I'm most interested in, just simply because it is my absolute interest. Like as you can see, there's not one thing that defines me. You don't see just fishing shit up there, right? Like,
right.
You see just culture shock of just absolutely fucking garbage everywhere.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. To me, it's I don't know where I would be mentally if I didn't have these things to look at. And it may seem like it's all out of place, but it's all meaningful to me.
If you combined our brains, this is what you would have. If you combine Chris and I's hemispheres, like this is it right here.
Yeah. So
Tastemakers is a lot like that because we broke every rule.
Yeah.
We're not doing anything. Like we didn't walk into your door and do like Cribs episode. Hey, Hector, nice to, you know what I mean? We're not doing anything. So we're doing something that's completely on a business side for me, trying to break the mold.
Yeah.
Because I've been part of a system since Miami till, finishing Ink Master and now coming here.
How many episodes did you do on all of those?
Well over 300.
300 episodes.
Over.
How long have you been on TV doing that? Like
I don't know what year we started.
10 years, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did Miami Ink start in 96?
I want to say you were 10.
Well, here's the thing. So there's similarities in our worlds, right? In your guys' world, separate from my world in that way.
Yeah.
You guys kids are looking up to you in gaming in all these ways. You know how old I feel when all these people are like, yo, I grew up watching your show. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I'll have kids that roll up now that are 22, whatever. And they're like, yo, I remember back in the day I used to. It's like we've raised myself and, the people with me, our teams, but we've raised, a generation or two.
Yeah.
In the time that we've collectively been on television. It's like, holy shit, man. So, watching gaming turned into what it turned into, watching tattooing turned into what it turned into, and seeing this aspiration for art, this aspiration for gaming, this aspiration for competitiveness, they're parallel universes. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And now what we're doing is a full-on intersection of two different worlds colliding and really trying to bring it together. You know what I mean? Not that it didn't already, but for us to show my respective side to see this side and his respective side to see my side, why not? Because now if this interests somebody to go see an artist or to go look into you or to, whatever it is, great. We're creating more awareness for good things, right? We're not bringing you bad taste and negativity. We're bringing you all positivity and creation.
Yeah.
For you to be inspired from the people you see.
Yeah.
What's better than that?
Nothing. Nothing. I don't think. And yeah, just like you, obviously, like a bunch of people grew up watching us, right? And now when I see people are like, I was watching when I was 13 years old, and these are like grown men. That sometimes I'm doing business with them. I'm like, it's the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
Right. It ages you in a good way, right? Because you know that they've been there from the beginning. I think the amount of people that have been sort of more open about gaming and what it is, because up until a very specific point in time in the last couple of years, gaming was still gaming. It was still nerdy. It was still like that sort of thing. And it wasn't until it sort of started to transcend. It wasn't until professional athletes were playing and being open about playing that it became acceptable, right? I was like, wait, I game too. Right? Like the day that I bought my first gaming system ever, I had just moved in to my first apartment with my girlfriend, my wife now, and we were at Costco, and I'm like, I'm gonna buy this Xbox, and it had Call of Duty 2. She's like, you're gonna buy a fucking Xbox? I'm like, yeah. She's like, you're not. Why? Don't waste your $500. That's gonna sit there collecting dust, Hector. Is what she said. And usually, I listen to her, right? But this time was the one time where I'm like, I don't know. There's something about Call of Duty. There's one because I tested it at GameStop, so I bought it, and obviously it changed my life, right? But she's like, you're an outdoors guy. You love fishing. You love camping. You're a graffiti writer, for fuck's sake,
right?
And you like work in a corporate environment. Where is the gamer nerd thing coming from? And she didn't say it like that, but it's like, and it just became a thing, right? Which is why I'm saying like gaming is just something that we have in common. Fatherhood is another thing that I have in common with a lot of our fans, right? A lot of members of the Green Wall. When I announced that I was launching a cannabis business, the amount of people that hit me up, they're like, yo, grew up watching you. I'm a grower. Yo, grew up watching. I own a dispensary. Yo, grew up like It's insanity to me, right?
Yeah.
The fishing thing was like even the biggest mind blow to everybody else, and you yourself are a bass fisherman.
Love it.
But yeah, I think it's more about how many different topics can you relate with somebody on, right? Luckily for me, I'm 41 years old. I grew up in the 90s, the best era for absolutely everything.
Yep.
Sports, music, I mean, you name it.
Video games.
Yeah.
I like
I mean, I
80s.
think
The 80s were pretty damn
80s?
good too.
Well,
I mean,
I was a toddler in the 80s.
Sorry.
you missed the gaming revolution, but that's good. We love that because you get to learn now. But it's funny because like all three of us, I think, have done things our own way.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Chris has the idea to continue to sort of forge ahead. We like to do firsts, always have with Foundry, and that's why we left WME, because we wanted to keep innovating and keep pushing. And so, but what's ironic is...
What's Foundry?
Oh, so Foundry is our company. After we left, so we sold our agency, started the agency, sold that, obviously.
And the agency was...
that was Global Esports Management.
And it was a marketing agency?
We represented talent. So how it happened was... I watched Entourage, totally true story. I watched Entourage, and I was inspired by that show. And this goes to show that anybody can really do anything because I'm not that smart of an individual. So I watch Entourage, and I'm like, I want to do that in esports. And at the time, I won't mention the player, but he had completely broken a contract. And in a terrible way, because this team had paid a lot of money for him. It was in StarCraft 2. It was sort of on esports 2.0, and things are getting recognition. I thought, okay, see, the player needs representation, which will also help the team. So we need to bring in some more professionalism so that kind of thing doesn't happen. Because if that keeps happening, and at the time you had a lot of tournaments like not paying out as well, and if there's no repercussions, we're never going to evolve, right? So to me, it was like, well, that Ari Gold character is super interesting to me, right? Like that's the guy I like the best from the show Entourage. So I was
Boom.
like, yeah, I'm going to do that. So then when Ari actually called me years, and by the way, that's the romantic side. Nobody hears that, like, we were down to, I had like no personal money left. I think I had like $5,000 in my account before we got this big consulting deal that sort of saved us. And then that allowed me to expand to like 3 offices worldwide, one in Korea, one in Germany, as well as one in Miami. And then Ari calls and is like...
The real Ari.
Ari Emanuel calls and says, hey, and I didn't really believe it was him at first. I thought somebody was messing with me.
Yeah.
And he's like, I want to buy your agency. We're going to do an acqui-hire, and you can do whatever you want. You won't have to answer to anybody. Which, like, who says no to that, right? Like, obviously, that was an instantaneous yes. I tried to sound really cool about it, and Simon says I sounded cool, but it was really me freezing in fear, not trying to ice him. Like, what? Like, this is crazy. This moment is nuts. So, and then from there, I remember people telling me, like, well, you're not a lawyer. You're not an agent. You don't know how to do it. So it was like fake it till you make it. And then one of the agents, one of the biggest agents, I won't blow him up, but one of the biggest agents, William Morris, I told this story to, and he looked at me and he goes, I'm still fake it till you make it. And you're talking about this is like the biggest agent next to Ari in the world said that. So they're very humble. It was a great experience. And then, but it proves that, like, if you're passionate about something, like gaming took me around the world. I know it took you around too. Like, I remember your first trip to London, you tweeted out that, and that came from gaming, right? Like, so
Everything.
Yeah, but I think having the bravery to kind of, it's a recurring thing we hear through the show too, is just having the bravery to take the chance, take the risk, knowing there's going to be bumps in the way, but still forging ahead. You mentioned it. You're like the most fearless person I know, because fishing. All right, I'm gonna do that now. And there's probably a million people that would say you shouldn't do it. You should focus on what you're good at. Well, I'm good at fishing, so let me figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
You had what was the term? A job hobby?
Yeah, turning my hobbies into a jobby.
Job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that we can all relate to that.
Yeah.
Regardless,
it's the best way to live, man. And look, I always make it a point to emphasize on the fact that we're not saying quit your job now, right? Like, no, that's not it. Start your second job now, right, while you're doing your first job. Like, don't let pay your bills, right?
Yeah.
Don't risk that. If you really want it, you're gonna make it work by sacrificing the extra sleep. You know what I mean? Sacrificing that extra 2 to 3 hours that you need. So you don't, obviously. So it's a matter of, again, I don't think it's bravery as much as it is like instinct or gut instinct for me, where like I see an opportunity, and whether I'm heavily involved, which I'm more often than not involved that much, I still want to be a part of it, right? So whether it's from an advising standpoint or whether it's an investment standpoint, like Optic is everything to me. Like I don't see myself doing anything else besides Optic for the rest of my life. I just love it, right? It is the thing that changed my life. It is the thing that I fought very hard to sort of get back when I lost it. So for me, like, there's everything else that I do is not as important, but it's important enough for me to care about it. But if you look at my schedule, like 99.999% of everything that I do is Optic related. I saw an opportunity in cannabis, right? And I said, well, no one's gonna do it. Someone's gonna do it. Might as well be me. You know what I mean? Same thing with fishing. I helped some of my friends build one of the most exciting brands, period, just in brand in general. But a disruptor of the space in the fishing space, just kinging shit, right? Like, they literally are taking over. But for me, it's like, all right, like, I'm helping friends, but at the same time, like, I get to say that I'm involved, and I am, right? I do a lot of advisory work for many different things that don't take up a lot of time, but at least I get to say I'm involved, and I'm like involved at the highest level of involvement without sacrificing a lot of time on the things that I operate on a daily basis. And what that just stems from is my ADD. Right, like, it's to some people is not how do I say it? It's a little bit of how do I say it? I'm losing my words because of my ADD.
I get it. 'Cause I do the same thing. Like Tastemakers,
debilitating, right?
Yeah, right.
To some people, to me, it's a superpower. You know what I mean?
I get it. I have the same situation. Like, you can ask him. We're in a Signal group chat together, and I've come up with 15 different names for the show, 15 different other shows. We had Tastemakers for cultural appropriation. We had, all of them. Every day I think of a new name as a joke. But I have to put it in there because it's like my mind has to get this stuff out. He created a monster as soon as he brought me out, but I think that was sort of the intention. But
I hope I was right.
I mean, yeah, we'll see, right? One way or the other.
All right, so I'm gonna take a quick break, not to cut you off, and then we can get back to it. I'm gonna say hello to the sponsors really quickly. We have Credit Karma coming back for a 5th week in a row. Certainly appreciate their support. Credit Karma has always been there to help you make better financial decisions, and now they want to help even more. With Credit Karma Money Spend Account, you can be rewarded for good money habits, right? What service out there rewards you for spending things on things that need to be spent on, right? Like things that you want, food, groceries. I mean, you get the point. Who doesn't want instant gratification? If you're looking for satisfaction, there's no need to wait. With Credit Karma Money, you can win cash reimbursements for debit purchases. Credit Karma Money is a brand new checking account where you can win cash reimbursements for making purchases, right? Nothing has to change. Your spending habits can stay the same, whether it's your daily purchases, weekly purchases, monthly purchases. This gives you at times instant karma cash right back at you. Just pay with your debit card, and if you win, you'll be notified on the spot. Your instant karma cash will be added back into your spend account. Credit Karma Money has already given away over $3 million in instant karma to over 50,000 Credit Karma members and counting. Open your FDIC insured spend account for free. There's no minimum balance at all. There's no overdraft fees. There are free withdrawals from a network of over 50,000 ATMs. So think about that. Every single time you show up to an ATM, it's a wheel of roulette, right? It's a roulette. You don't know if you're going to be paying $3, $5, or $7 if you're using their service. This over $50,000 ATMs in a network that will allow you to get free withdrawals, right? And when you make a purchase between July 1st and July 23rd, you'll be automatically entered into a draw to win $1 million, right? Credit Karma Money progress starts here. And right now, if you visit creditkarma.com/WINMONE, that's win money, to open your free account and start winning instant karma. Go to creditkarma.com, win money, to sign up for free and start winning instant karma. All right, that is Credit Karma for those people in the back. Second time, go to creditkarma.com/WINMONEY. Instant Karma is sponsored by Credit Karma. No purchase necessary. Exclusions and terms apply. See rules. Banking services provided by MVB Bank, Inc., member FDIC. Maximum balance and transfer limits apply. Who else? Who else is sponsoring the podcast? Who else is clutching up this week to sponsor the podcast? Wealthfront, for the first time ever. Shout out to them, guys. You guys know what to do. When we have a new sponsor, you guys go down there to the link in the description. You click that link and you say, hello. Stonks, memes, rocket ships, day trading can be a lot of fun. But if you want to grow your long-term wealth and make it to the moon, you should open up a Wealthfront investment account today. Decades of data show that investors that trade individual stocks underperform the market every single year. In fact, only 1% of day traders beat the market. The odds are not in your favor, right? If you're doing it alone, team up with Wealthfront instead and get some help. Investing can be complicated, but whether you're a beginner or you've been investing for a very, very long time, years, decades, Wealthfront makes it easy. They have the right tools for every portfolio. Right? Wealthfront can create a portfolio of globally diversified, low-cost index funds personalized just for you in just minutes. No manual trades, no picking stocks, no watching the stock market every day. They automatically handle all of the investment-based preferences you control. Wealthfront can help you lower the taxes you pay as you invest. Think about that, right? For the average client, their tax loss harvesting can more than cover the low annual cost of 0.25% advisory fee. Best of all, it's automatic. You don't have to do anything. It does it for you. Wealthfront is trusted with over $20 billion of assets, and you can get your first $5,000 managed for free by going to wealthfront.com/HECZ, H3CZ. All you need is $500 to get started. Grow your wealth the easy way and let Wealthfront do the work for you. Right? Get your first $5,000 managed for free for life. Go to wealthfront.com/HECZ. That's H3CZ. That's WEALTHFORNT.com/A3CZ to start growing your savings. Wealthfront.com/HECZ. Get started today. Huge shout out to them, man. Thank you. Hope they come back on the next one. All right. So again, huge shout out to Credit Karma and Wealthfront. All right. So going back to the Tastemaker stuff and ADD, do you suffer from that? Do you find your imagination just, obviously as an artist, just takes you like all over the place, or are you good at focusing and just isolating one project?
I see, for me, it's been a really weird kind of run, but in the last 5 years, my brain's completely changed. And I see everything in compartments, but I know every single way that each compartment functions. Mm-hmm. So I can see everything, and I know how everything is, and now it's getting all the other moving parts to align, right? So the exterior parts, the parts in the physical world, whether it be partnerships, whether it be whatever. But I actually, for the first time in my life, see everything crystal clear. So it's been a very, business-wise, it's been very fortunate. And then direction, I'm very direct. I no longer, I guess before I used to try to appease people or be like, hey, no, maybe, I don't.
I'm still there a little bit, I think.
I can't do it anymore. I don't have that way. So now I have to say that, hey, it's this way, but that's the way. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I'm sure of certain things, and what I'm not sure of, I don't speak on. But the things I'm sure of, I no longer hold back. I say it and I mean it and take it or leave it. But that's the truth.
Yeah,
he suffers from my ADD though.
Yeah,
He suffers
from his ADD.
Yeah,
He suffers from my ADD.
yeah, because you're like, let's go here. No, let's do this. I think creativity. As I think I tweeted about this, or so the boys having fun. They're in between practice. They're used to it, so don't let them distract you. Shut the fuck up. They don't care.
You're a good boss.
Dude, no, it's not even that. The number one thing that I've learned about being a leader and being like the head of a company is that you can take two approaches to this thing, right? You can be the one that tells people what to do, or you're the one that shows people how to do things. And that's the approach I've always taken, right? Like I started vlogging and creating daily content because I wanted to prove to two of my players that they too could do it and compete at the same time. So I led by example, right? And more often than not, I'm learning from them more than that, because they're the ones that are like in tune with everything, and then I'll just apply and put it through my machine and then just like spit out whatever comes out. But one of the things that I talked about is that my biggest strength is also my greatest weakness, right? Like my creativity has allowed me to look at this space way differently than everybody else, right? And I have an advantage because I grew up in one of the coolest time periods of my life, or of history, right? The 80s, obviously growing up as a kid in Juarez, Mexico, like I saw things differently. In the 90s, obviously, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, music, art, sports, like everything. So I'm coming with like 20 years of history that I'm applying, seeing all of the coolest shit that's ever been cool. Everything that people are wearing today, everything that people are singing about today, everything like all came from those 2 decades. So me living those things, like how many times have you seen Kango hats or bucket hats go in and out of style? Right. Like we were there, right? In the 80s with breakdancing, as said, with Kangos, right? And then in the 90s again with Wu-Tang, and you know, obviously all the East Coast rappers, obviously had the West Coast, and so I have that imagination. That's my strength, because I can imagine everything through the lens of cool and hip from everything that's being replicated now. But it also is like the most thing that keeps me out of my focus zone, because of that very specific thing. A lot of things don't get done in the time that they should be done, because I'm like, what if I miss a thought that's going to be like the next big thing? So it's a struggle.
But you lead from a place of support.
Yeah.
That's how I try to lead. Yeah, I think that's important, because our team's in Montreal, and like, so we have the Color Collab app. Yeah. And this was the first, like, Simon is a fucking genius. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to drop the F-bomb, but I have to, because he deserves it. Like, this guy, first of all, I get a lot of credit for E-League because I had the quotes and I brokered the deal. But Simon picked Counter-Strike. And when I was like, really? We're going to put that on television? Like, how is that going to work? And he immediately spits out this whole, 2-minute rounds, and we can advertise here and there, natural halftime. Like, he's thinking of it from how he can support me on the business side with these things so I can sell through sponsorships. And, ironically, funny anecdote at the time, he's dragging me all over Miami to Christmas shop while I'm on the phone with sponsors pitching brands for E-League, and he's laughing the whole time going, I can't believe video games are doing this, right? Yeah. So it was kind of funny. But, that's how Simon came up with collab, really, with Chris. And it was like, well, we're going to dedicate these resources to a coloring book. And I was like, what? Like, off rip. I'm like, we're making a video. We're making an esport ground up. Like, what do you mean? And then I stopped myself, because let me give you some other examples of where Simon said we should do something. Like, year 1, Bitcoin. And I'm like, oh, you want to go ahead and mine for imaginary money? This sounds great. And I completely ridiculed him, right? Yeah. Which, thank the Lord, we still, forged forward, not as much as really even I wanted to at the time, but we did. And then cannabis, he said, one time I remember I ridiculed him because he said cannabis will be legal in the future in the United States, and he's a Canadian, and I'm like, what would you know about it? Like, it's never going to happen. We're no way. And look where we are today. So when I stopped myself and I thought, anytime I want to ridicule Simon for absolutely anything, it's it's a North Star. It's the way we need to go. So these two start, and then the amount of stuff that you would do on like learning the tech and saying, well, why don't we change this? Because our big joke is, he always says, what's your line, Chris?
Stick another RAM in it.
That's it. That's the only thing he knew. Like, if it solves all problems, more memory. Just stick another RAM in there, right?
It's everything.
Yeah. So, but it's funny. He says that, but you put him in a Tesla with the map all screwed up, and it's like, I don't know. I can't get to north. And he'll go, boom, map fixed. I'm like, how'd you do that? He goes, I don't know. Like, he's a savant with it. But, seeing him
Oh, it's literally one button. Just the
It's the upper right.
recentering.
I know.
That's
whatever.
one button savant. That's me.
You give him one button. He's the best one button person
Yeah,
you
the
meet.
pusher, yeah.
So how did
Jesus.
Collab end up with so many buttons?
I kept asking Simon to make it
More stuff.
more shit.
To add more RAM.
Because I rammed so much shit in there that I was like, hey, I want this to work like a pen and a pencil. Like you want to move your black book around and spin it. You want to do this. You want to put this shading. I wanted to be able to do it. So from a hard paper artist side, talking to a tech side where we're doing everything on a device or a phone, it was like, well, hey, how can we make this the realest experience that we can from an art standpoint?
Do you use an iPad to draw?
Yeah. No, I use pen and paper still.
But then we input it in.
So I've learned in the last year since Procreate came out, I now my process of sketching and that will never change. Like the relationship that my pencil has with a piece of paper.
God, that makes my heart warm.
Yeah, it's like you can never get away from that, right?
Yeah.
And so what I do now is instead of inking on the paper, which I still do because that's who I am, I now do I take a picture with my iPad, import it, and then I'll trace with ink on the thing, right? And then I'll come up with whatever. I'll even print the outline and then use the color to color it. But the actual original still gets completed differently, and that's the one that I end up keeping more times than none because now that I've gotten to be 41 and now that I've gotten to I got a couple of decades under me, I realize that the way that you do art, the way that graffiti artists do art is not. It's not fair to the artist ever. You know what I'm saying? And what I mean by that, for those of you watching and those of you who are graffiti writers or tattoo artists, you'll understand this more than anything. When a graffiti writer, and I told this on the show earlier, so I'll repeat it. When a graffiti writer paints anything, it's not for him to keep. You'll spend 30 minutes in front of a panel on a train. You'll be in the train yard. You'll paint it, and it'll be gone forever. You may never see it again because it'll get stopped 100 yards after that. It'll get buffed, and it'll disappear forever, right? And that is the melancholy of every graffiti writer. Everything that you create is for somebody else, always and forever, right? I just bought that piece of artwork from this dude named Ouija, who I've admired for a very, very long time. That's another thing that I think has set me apart from everyone. I look at everything as a fan of everything.
Yeah.
I look at Optic and I'm like, what would I like to see out of Entourage? What's the next episode of Entourage look like? And I sort of develop what I would like my team to look like through the lens of a fan, right? That's why I will always have a leg up on everybody else, because while people are out there being like, yeah, you know what, I'm the star of this shit, I'm just like, yeah, but what does he want to see from the star of the shit?
Way you make the crowd go wild.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you. So anyway, so he made that, and I'm like, man, that's such a cool piece. It's gone. That's not his anymore. Guesser up there, he made that. That's just dope. That's just gone. He's never gonna see that again.
Right.
I mean, he'll see it, but he's not gonna own it. I bought it from him. You know what I mean? And that to me is one of the saddest things about graffiti writers and tattoo artists, right? You are literally creating a piece of art out of you. A piece of you is going into somebody else that you may never see again.
But I think it's the ultimate train, because until death, your piece is running unless you fucked it up and it gets covered.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's
never going to get buffed.
No. So you actually get to put something on there. Good luck buffing that.
Yeah, right. I learned something cool too. Like you said, I learned something from everybody. So Dr. Dax, big shout to Dr. Dax in Atlanta. I mean, this guy is Atlanta. He personifies Atlanta, right? So he took us to the train yards there. Notice how they don't go over the numbers. Mm-hmm. They don't graffiti over the numbers. So there's a respect there, right? There's I learned about the whole
self-respect,
right? Well,
because if you paint over the numbers, then your piece gets buffed.
But right,
so you're not. Oh, yes, the train workers get to see. Obviously their job's easier because they can identify the numbers.
Right.
But it's not vandalism. See what I mean? It's not like you're doing it as a vandal. That was part of the issue. Was it became less about vandalism, because learning all about the history of graffiti, and you talk about a competitive art form, you're risking your skin going out there in those days, right? It wasn't all hey, happy, let's all collaborate together. Hey, Chris, let's go do a show. No, it was this guy's going to beat me up a few times before I'm welcomed in, right? And that was sort of a recurring theme. And so, you're running from the police, your parents, you're hiding paint cans, paint's expensive. You're doing what you have to do to get it, so you learn about all these things, but it is cool because I have no clue about any of the stuff that you two know. And so I'm learning all this through fresh eyes, and I'm just like, I'm never leaving Atlanta, right? Like, and then we get to New York. I'm never leaving New York. Like, I'm learning so much.
It's like a kid.
Yeah, it is.
That's
it
the
really
best way
is.
to learn.
That is the best way to learn.
It is, and I'm so grateful. By the way, Chris, I've never got to thank you yet for doing this and dragging me out of the house. But man, thank you so much, because it's been thus far an amazing journey, and there's only more to see. So I don't mean to get all emotional on your show.
No,
Sorry,
please do. One of my favorite Atlantean graffiti writers, this dude named Totem 2. Fucking insane. Like fucking insane. One of my favorites of all time. I own 4 of his canvases. You'll see them later when we go to the garage. But yeah, to me, if graffiti wouldn't have came into my life, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. I'd still be alive. I wasn't a gangbanger or anything like that. I did like fighting, but those, who doesn't in those days? But for me, like, it has allowed me to be competitive beyond belief, because there's nothing more competitive than a graffiti writer.
Yeah.
Period. You just
Tattooers are competitive.
Tattoo super. Yeah.
In the shop, you always have.
I mean, you guys
alpha.
made a TV multi-season decade of it, right?
Yeah, but so that was the thing about it, is it was never really, obviously it's real. We're really tattooing, and there was really stories, but it wasn't how a real tattoo shop was run.
Mm-hmm.
Shops prior to us getting on television, you weren't going to see a grandmother bringing her granddaughter to get a tattoo. Like, it wasn't common. You know what I mean? And then the tattoo shops became like a family-friendly place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Post us, and a lot of tattooers didn't like us for that. You know what I mean? Like, you fucked up our whole deal. You guys went out there, and now this, and now I got to tattoo this, and I got to listen to everybody's, morbid story and all that. And I felt
piano music, cue piano music.
Yeah.
I felt super bad. I felt bad for that aspect of it. You know what I mean? But one way or the other, the train was coming.
Yeah.
And it was definitely an honor and a privilege to have gotten to do it with the friends that I did it with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's that, but there's always a double, there's 2 sides to the coin. And there was definitely an upside, and there was definitely a downside.
Yeah.
And culturally, I felt a lot of the downside. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I never really got called off into the carpet on it. I just didn't like it.
Yeah. It's the same way. Like, people have been telling me to teach them how to do graffiti. I'm like, can't do that. You can't. You don't pick graffiti. Graffiti picks you, right? Because if somebody sees my shit and like, oh, I want to go paint graffiti, goes to a wall, unbeknownst to him, is going over like someone that is super famous, has passed away. Like, and they get their fucking shit blown off, right? Like they'll get knocked in the face. It just happened in New York. And it was on social media. This dude fucking narcs on the dude that slapped him or punched him because he went over somebody. So this graffiti writer, a wannabe graffiti writer, goes up to a wall and tries to do his thing.
Mm-hmm.
His dumb ass didn't realize that he was going over somebody who had passed away. Somebody spotted him doing it live, got his ass beat, calls the cops on the dude that punched him, and then everybody's like, oh, fucking snitch, you shouldn't have done that, blah blah. You first of all know the rules before you step out there. So I never wanted to have the responsibility to have one of my people who were young at the time be like, get hyped up on letters and graffiti, and without doing any research goes out and then tosses my name up right next to him like, yo, shout out to HECZ. Now I'm on the hook for that shit. Fuck that. I'm not a teacher of that shit. Learn it from on your own. Let it pick you.
Tats talks a lot about that.
Yeah.
In the time we were with them, they give a little dissertation on street etiquette in the graffiti world.
Yeah.
And they pulled no punches, man. It is a tough world.
It is.
It is hard, and it was much harder back in the days, but
where you were held accountable for the words that came out of your mouth.
Everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not everything now is keyboard fucking warrior nation, dude.
Yeah. You'll love that episode because they really do. They walk right through it. Like it was my it was like my high school education on the history of graffiti right from
from the train yard from 1970
amazing.
Question mark.
I mean, we were in like the Bronx. We were in the Bronx.
Yeah,
Bronx,
the same
like
place
real
that they
deal.
were 30 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
We're in their same studio.
We go on location into the real deal
And they're still there.
Yeah, and
Nothing changed.
That's
and they
crazy.
still help the community.
Yeah.
They were, they were hard as nails, and they still help kids all the way through. They have all these amazing programs. There's so many of these artists that have given back so much through what they've been able to create. They've paid it all forward, and that's what I love. Because, man, to see good things come out of what we love beyond just materialistic things for ourselves, and I'm talking about for anybody who makes it successful, to be able to give something back and do something for the next and to help save lives and change lives, it's fucking incredible.
Yeah.
I think the show too is gonna end up creating collaboration. So I introduced our very first guest, which I don't know how it'll air in which order, but was Brian Whitten. So we're at Brian Whitten's house, and for those that don't know, he was like executive produced a lot of amazing movies. So as a friend of mine for a long time, wanted to get involved in esports and gaming. We pitched a few shows together, and basically, seeing him in Atlanta with Dax, who two people that normally wouldn't meet, but we put together in a laid back atmosphere. Just right before we were wrapping, we got invited to this bar, and then having them hang out and talk, and seeing them just sort of go do their own thing and start have conversations on shows and different stuff. It's great because we didn't intend that. That wasn't our intention for the evening. The intention was just to introduce Brian to Dax because they're in the same city, and here they are having this side conversation on content and ways to change content, and things, things of that nature.
I think it was almost like your duty, right? Because as one of the first to sort of adopt media and TV into your culture, like it's your duty, the way that it's my duty to document as much of esports today as it is anything else. Like I'm taking the same approach on cannabis, because if you think about the wine industry, for example, like imagine if you were able to document back then, if you had the ability to grab your phone and record people going through the process, learning the process of the best practices to create the best wine out there. Sommelier classes that are, like that, like the do's and don'ts of an entire culture, or essentially a culture, like is lost. And that is a disservice to those who love it most, right? And for you to just sit there and be like, that's not what tattooing is. Tattoo shouldn't belong to, you know what I mean?
I ate a lot of shit throughout the time of working for the networks, and I pitched what we're doing today all the way back then. You know what I mean? Like, hey, let's go feature artists. Let's go show the kings, in all walks of art. Nah, no one will ever care about that. No one will ever care about that. So for me, all that time that I spent, which I completely appreciate, I was learning. I sat back and I said, you know what? I'm not going to go dark on this. I'm not going to quit because I'm here now. I'm going to learn how to produce. I'm going to learn how to understand the way the cameras work, the way the house works, how you open up, how you do everything, and learn from the back to the front. Because I was already in the front. That was the easy part for me. I could say whatever I need to say and not sweat. So I was good. But the whole inner workings of everything we see back here is what I went to school for.
Yeah.
And I literally took all my time to be cool with every cameraman, with every audio guy, with every producer, director, and I just spent my time picking their brain, and they were truly my friends. And shout outs to everybody I've ever worked with, because I never fell out with one, ever. Never even had a word. Like, those were always the people I hung out with when I wasn't shooting. When I was shooting, I was with this guy. When I wasn't shooting, I was with those guys.
Yeah.
And that was really, I forged really great relationships that way. That's how most of my guys are here.
And he sees esports, right? So I show him streaming and all these different ways that you and I, I'm sure have had very similar thoughts on distribution and how to change that. And I have to say too, real quick, I've said all this stuff about E-League, and I really didn't give credit to Turner, and I should, because talk about a network that didn't do it the standard network way. Like, I mean, Craig Barry and all the guys there's too many to name, but just amazing. David Levy's still a friend of mine. Of course, he's left Turner. We still golf at least once or twice a year, but those guys, I had an opposite experience of him in television. They were like, you lead, we'll follow. And so we did it from a fan perspective, right? Like, that's a lot of the way you do it. Was we took the same approach with authenticity. That was like the time. And it's funny you mentioned wine too as well. Like when my wife would talk to brands, because it was like we had to sell all the different stuff on our own really, and make a lot of those first brand meetings. Those guys didn't know. The brands themselves would ask about the weed aspect. Like, have you guys heard about what's happening in weed? Like, other brands were interested because they don't know if they're going to co-brand or if there's a way to work together. And she would always use the wine. Yeah. Sort of, there's a lot of similarities between, the way wine is grown, different vineyards and different strands of grape, and the same thing with marijuana. So I think the world at large is changing, and Chris sees this. And so he comes to me with all this television experience, and we've got sort of brand experience plus coming out with different distribution styles of like E-League. I remember I had a 45-minute dissertation prepared for Turner on why it has to go on Twitch as well as regular natural network television. And I said, okay, this has to be on Twitch. The audience is there. They go, yeah, great, we'll do it. There's like some FCC stuff we have to figure out where we have to be the premium and they have to be second, but we'll figure it out. Well, shit, I have 44 minutes I guess we're going to pre-production, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it was amazing because they got it. Whereas Chris had more of the traditional television, sort of there may or may not be an executive in there that needs to feel or seem relevant and say things. And, for guys like us where it's like, no, we're going to create the content ourselves, drive the narrative. I mean, that was we had to do it because like if there wasn't a tournament, then we'll create our own. So.
Well, think about YouTube, man, and what it's done, right? Like if this was 20 years ago, where do you put your own content? Like you would have to go through, impossible. You would not be able to do it unless you knew people.
Right.
You would not be able to, I could not upload my daily life show, right? If I didn't have YouTube.
Right.
If I didn't have it's crazy. Like the amount of level playing field that the internet has done for everyone is the best thing ever, man.
Yeah, and I mean, you take all of his productions instead of screwing off and going and doing whatever. He's sitting there learning more and more about the traditional side of it, and I think that part of the goal here is to disrupt media in a way that, we're constantly breaking the fourth wall with our crew because they've got great questions they want to ask, right? And Chris is always not just supporting it, but saying, let's do more of that.
Yeah.
Like, let's get you guys more involved. And I think traditional rules are boring. When you look at that content, it's become almost like banner blindness, like the shows are so typecast.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think the flip side and the positive side of this is the more that the buyers get younger on the business side of things, then it is going to start featuring, you've seen Vice do a lot with marijuana and the growth of that business and showing it as a real business, which then makes people more, brands more, interested in sponsoring it. So I think that, as the buyers get younger, they're more hip to what we have going on as content creators.
Yeah. Look, it's a thing that was born out of passion that has taken it has taken itself to such a level that there's nothing to do but either hop on board or get the fuck out of the way, because there's no room for people who are gonna be like the naysayers, right? There's no time for that shit. Like either get with it or get the fuck out of the way, because it's gonna happen regardless, right?
Yeah.
Like progress doesn't stop for anyone, like period, right? It just humans tend to just not give a fuck when it comes to furthering its own self-interest, and that, when applied correctly and in a good way, it's just limitless, man. It's just limitless. Before I let you guys go, what do I need to do to get on your list to get tattooed, and how does
talk to me?
How does you're the agent?
Just beep me.
Yeah,
hit me on my beeper.
Beep me. So do you still are you still actively tattooing people? Like, do you,
as much as I can. We've been
because obviously, yeah. With
I love it, and the thing about it, I tattooed my son last, and it's been
How old's
months.
your son?
My son is now 20. Just
okay,
became a
so he's like
firefighter.
a 12-year-old.
Shout out to
Yeah,
Anthony. Anthony, but we call him Anthony.
He's a man.
Yeah, man. But it is the best in all of my day. If I could sit down and tattoo, it's the one place where once I'm working, I just go into a black hole and everything, time stops, and I'm just there focused on what I'm doing. And that, for me, is a big relief in comparison. You know how it is. Your wheels spin when you're walking around. You're taking this phone call. You're solving this problem. You're trying to keep everybody or everything in your life kind of in a line.
Yeah.
Shit gets crazy. So when you do that, it's like the great equilibrium, because you just pigeonhole into this one place.
Yeah.
And it's this one meditative, like, kind of feel that you get, like when you're drawing, when you're working on a piece.
Yeah.
But you can't be interrupted because everybody knows they can't fuck with you in that moment. So even the people around you, they give you that. They give you that pause.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the one time where, hey, dad's doing a line, or don't fuck with him right now. He's outlining somebody. So it's like, God damn, come on, outline. You know what I mean? Like, bring me all the outlines.
Yeah.
It's like that piece.
Yeah.
And that's the best. It feels great to be in there and to zone out. And again, you feel that there's a drag in the machine when the needle hits the skin, and you feel that perfect groove, and then you can ride that wave forever. It's like surfing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You find your line and you ride it.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, it's like, when will you be done? I'm like, look, the day that you see me only posting drawings and all that, like, that's when I know that I'm done and I've made it, right? Like when who was it? Somebody was asking me, like, you got optic back, right? What's going on now? Right? I'm like, well, look, this is bonus. I love doing this thing, but there at some point or another, there will come a day where I find the right successor to take over my job, which is taking care of everyone. Right, like that's my job, to make sure that everyone's cool.
Yeah.
But I hope to one day find somebody that's going to be able to take that and not only take optic and keep it, but take it to the next level. Because whether that's me or not, like, I don't know. If it's me and this is my life and I'm doing this for the rest of my life, I'm cool with it. But I do miss my art, right? I do miss spending time to do that, and I don't have that time, right? Like I don't, because I don't call them employees. I got teammates, right? I have teammates that focus on one thing, and my job is to focus on everything else and making sure that they're protected, making sure that the lights are on and all that. That's my job. That's what I was meant to be on earth for. The art thing, that's like my own personal selfish thing that I just do for myself. And until I get to a point in which everyone's protected, I don't think that I could ever get back fully into my art. And how long is that going to be? Will that ever be a thing? Like, I hope so. But if it's not, then I still love this thing so much that I'm cool sacrificing my art for that. So.
Do you have another takeover in mind? And no, you don't. What I meant by that was, let me back up. I could see you giving it away to that successor. What I'm thinking of is Lucas and Star Wars, right? Like, Lucas gives, he sells to Disney, and now all of a sudden I heard rumors that it may be true that he's now going to be back at the helm again. And I could kind of see that course correction out of it. It's like, it's hard to get rid of the heart and soul, right?
Sort of. I think the on Lucas, George Lucas.
I am comparing you to George Lucas for the record, and I mean it. So
because of our looks, I bet. Yeah.
No,
I think in his specific case, it's the same thing with Marcus Pearson from Notch, right? From Minecraft. I think it's the same thing. Like, you created something so special that so many people love that now you have a responsibility to not just take care of the business and your people, but also the people that have enabled you to build one of the dopest fucking universes in the world. So when you sort of give that away, and Disney, being the business machine that it is, like, turns it into something so massive that you sort of, I mean, look, I know people are gonna hate me saying this, right? But I'm not a super Star Warsy guy. I love Star Wars. I don't mind where Star Wars is today.
Oh God, you're right. We're gonna get so much hate for this. I didn't either. I didn't mind it at all.
Yeah, like I think the Mandalorian's fucking dope,
dude. It's amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, it's and the way they use Unreal Engine. Of course, Chris is
that's
like,
what I love.
Yeah, this is where Chris is, for as much as being a so-called low tech guy.
Yeah.
He's really into high tech stuff and how to apply it, because he'll get an idea of I'm like, they're using it for a set, and he's like, yo.
So the reason that I'm this way is because I got to work with the guys that worked on Mandalorian. So they explained to me the technology of this half moon that they were filming in and what the potential was, and they broke it down to me. So I was in awe of guys that I was working with, because they were like, oh, well, I did Mandalorian, and I did Game of Thrones and whatever. And I'm sitting here like, holy shit, these dudes, like, you shot some real shit here, And when they explained it to me, I was fascinated, because, of course, my art brain goes haywire, like, oh, well, there's this opportunity, that opportunity. And when all that stuff came to fruition and they explained and broke down to me how the tech worked, I was like, hey, there's this thing.
Like,
you know what I mean? Like, tech guy, there's this thing. You know what I mean? And I was pulling on Papa's sleeve, like, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
How are we going to do this?
Yeah, so I had one of my favorite shows of all time is Rome from HBO.
Yeah.
That got canceled after the second season because of the amount of money.
The cost,
that Hutchins is giving me that little burpee. So I took him to Hutchins.
Good.
Amazing.
Almost
didn't do the podcast. We were almost all in bed sleeping.
Bro, I've been yawning internally. My eyes keep getting watery, and I'm like,
look at my posture.
Yeah,
I'm in this
he's
thing
falling
just
out. I'm
slumped.
ready to catch him.
You had the avion, so you're really.
I'm trying to fly.
Yeah. So anyway, as I was saying, like, that show would still be alive. Well, it would have had his seasons, right? But it would have been better off if we had the technology that we have today, because the thing about that show is that it was so expensive because of the amount of Romans and whatever that they had to hire to play the parts, the armies and all that stuff. Like, now, super easy, right? Like, now, well, not super easy, but you know what I'm saying, with technology it gets a little bit easier. Anyway, not to get off topic, how do I get on the list?
You see how he Jedi
Call
mind
me.
tricked it, right?
Yeah. Call me.
All right.
I got his number.
All right, cool. Yeah. No, so no rush on that, but I'd be honored if you ink me up, man. I appreciate that. Thank you for stopping by. Appreciate you, my brother Toby, my woo brother number one.
Brother from another. Thanks for having us on, man.
Anyway, guys, all of their information is going to be in the description down below, social media stuff. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the description down below, and we'll check it out. Thank you to the boys again for stopping by, and we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.